in closing.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I would just like to thank the members that have contributed to debate this evening. I will be reading a short statement before addressing some of the concerns that were raised by members this evening. Firstly, I'd like to thank the staff from the Department of Corporate and Digital Development for the hard work and efficiency amending the fines and penalty legislation in such a short time frame, and thank their colleagues from the Attorney-General who are here this evening. These changes are extremely important, not only to rectify decades-long oversight and legislation compliance, but to ensure that the government can continue to enforce and recover funds that are owed to this government. As I've already mentioned this week, there are currently 206,000 outstanding fines and infringements in the Northern Territory worth a total of $121.5 million. Of this amount, over $104 million is owed to the Territory Government. That is a significant amount of money, and the remainder is owed to local government and corporations who we provide the fines recovery service to. When these issues were identified by the Fines and Recovery Unit earlier this year, the former Labor government promised Territorians an independent review to identify the scope of the problem. We know what the problem is, Madam Speaker. Everyone here has been briefed and been provided with plenty of information on the problem, and what we have done is provide a solution. On the 21st of October 2024, there was a process in which the drafting of two bills to amend the Fines and Penalties Act and remedy the historical non-compliance issues. The first bill was introduced in the October 2024 sittings of the Legislative Assembly to validate the past enforcement action taken by the Fines and Recovery Unit under the Act since its inception in 2002. The second bill was introduced to the Legislative Assembly this week and contains amendments intended to streamline the process for taking enforcement action and ensure that legislation matches the processes used by the Fines and Recovery Unit. There is urgency, Madam Speaker, to pass these amendments today in order to validate past enforcement actions and avoid any possible litigation which poses a significant financial risk to the Northern Territory Government. And finally, to recommence enforcement actions for unpaid infringements. Since the non-compliance issue was first discovered in June 2024, the Fines Recovery Unit ceased all enforcement action, meaning many fines and infringements are not being recovered in a timely manner. Since the suspension of enforcement processes, there are approximately 9,000 enforcements that have not been addressed. That's 9,000 people who are potentially doing the wrong thing, and currently there is no consequence. The estimated uncollected revenue is approximately $525,000 per month, Madam Speaker. If we do not pass this on urgency today, it will wait until 2025 and enforcements will continue to backlog. This will place additional pressures on the Fines Recovery Unit, who will be tasked with processing a backlog of enforcement actions once this legislation eventually passes. On Monday this week, 24th of November, the opposition and crossbenchers were briefed, and I would now like to address some of the issues that were raised this evening. I would like to thank the member for Arafura and the member for Mulca who spoke from the crossbench and opposition in regards to this. The member for Arafura raised his concerns about people not being able to pay back their fines and being, the safeguards in place for vulnerable people. Madam Speaker, there are existing safeguards in the Act relating to the exercise of powers and functions of the Fines Recovery Unit. Nothing in the bills affects the operation of those safeguards which are retained in full. The Fines Recovery Unit has the discretion to withdraw an enforcement order at any time on its own volition or if requested to do so. The wording has been slightly changed to Clause 14 of the second bill to align terminology with the amendment to Section 37, but otherwise the ability to withdraw an order remains. From time to time, people contact the Fines Recovery Unit to provide evidence that they had not been aware of their enforcement order. This can happen for a range of reasons, such as moving house or not updating an address, out of the country or interstate, or I know for many people who travel from community to community, or they might be FIFO workers. The Fines Recovery Unit can then decide whether to withdraw the enforcement order if the person pays the fines or enters a time to pay agreement. No further action is taken if the person is unable to pay. They are warned that future action may be taken in the future, including further enforcement orders. These robust statutory safeguards, Madam Speaker, allow the Fines Recovery Unit to determine when it is or is not appropriate to continue to apply additional costs on a person who may be vulnerable. However, it does not affect the need for the underlying fine or penalty to be addressed. Madam Speaker, the member for Mulca also addressed options about people not being able to pay fines, and I guess why this government is seeking to always be fining people. Under Section 77 of the Act, Madam Speaker, the community work order is also another option for people who are unable to pay their fines. People unable to pay may be eligible for a community work order. In this order, they can undertake an approved work program under the supervision of the Commissioner of Correction. This option allows a person to work off their debt. It is a flexible alternative that lets people satisfy a debt in a non-monetary way. It may be completed in full or partially, but all hours worked will be credited against their total balance owing to the Fines Recovery Unit. I'd also just like to bring to the attention of the House, there was, by the member for Mulca, I guess, issues raised in regards to the Fines Recovery Unit and people concerned that we're rewarding the Fines Recovery Unit for not doing the right thing. The Fines Recovery Unit enforcement agencies acted with the intention of carrying out their key statutory function of the Fines Recovery Unit to recover outstanding fines and penalties. There is nothing to indicate that these functions were undertaken in anything other than in good faith, Madam Speaker. The government supports the actions of public servants taken in good faith and with the intention of upholding the requirements of the Act. Any persons affected by this issue had outstanding fines or penalties at the time they received enforcement notices and sanctions. Madam Speaker, I'd just like to finish off there and thank everyone for their contributions this evening.
We have now concluded the cognate debate, so from here we deal with the bills separately, starting with the Fines and Penalties Recovery Amendment Validation Bill 2024 Serial 8. The question is the Fines and Penalties Recovery Amendment Validation Bill 2024 Serial 8 be now read a second time. Those of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no. Aye. I think the ayes have it. The Clerk.
A bill for an act to amend the Fines and Penalties Recovery Act 2001.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I seek leave to move the third reading.
Is leave granted?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
There being no objection.
Sorry? There be no objection, leave is granted. Minister.
Madam Speaker, I move that the bill now be read a third time.
The question is that the bill be now read a third time. Those of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, no.
Aye.
I think the ayes have it. The Clerk.
A bill for an act to amend the Fines and Penalties Recovery Act 2001.
We now